Hope you're having a good Friday afternoon. We hope all of you were able to catch some of the earlier sessions this week. I was, and happy to be back and clean up here for STCR. Just to give you an idea of what I'm hoping to cover here, we're going to talk some about checkout, new technologies in checkout. That's for both self-checkout and attended. Talk a little bit about efficiency in the store and reducing shrink. And then kind of what's happening with AI. I call it future. Some of it's technically available now, but it's ever developing very quickly. And then I'm going to talk about some of our mobility solutions. So those would be Android devices and how we would use them for queue busting. Talk a little bit about a self-shopping application that's available, and pop through a couple other applications real quick as well. So looking at checkout and efficiency in the grocery store, we talk to a lot of retailers, and what we're hearing is that the shopping experience is right toward the top of the list of their concerns. People will actually come to a place and pay a little bit more money for a better shopping experience. Frictionless self-checkout is really important, and I know you heard about that from a couple different angles earlier this week. But when the self-checkout is not easy, it ends up causing more problems for people than it does solutions for getting them in and out faster. And loss prevention, every single person we talk to is trying to figure out how to reduce shrink. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to avoid shrink and how to prevent some of it also. So self-checkout, really is the biggest topic. We heard of some of that from Locke, some of that from Toshiba. They want the self-checkout to be simple and efficient. It has to be easy to use, especially with produce. I will admit, I'm the first one up until recently that if I had produce, I was going to an attended checkout lane. I'm getting a little better at it now in the roles that I play, but people just don't want to have to mess with going through 6 different menus to check out every single piece of produce that they're working with. And obviously they're trying to reduce shrink from theft mostly, but some honest errors also. Even in the assisted checkout, we're seeing a lot of times where we have new employees. You don't have those people that have been checkout people for 5 years as often. You walk through and look at some of the tags at the grocery store I go to, and just about everyone says trainee or 1 year on it. We need to make things easy for them, especially with PLUs and produce again. I was telling Farrell, I just got on and watched the person in front of me like I'm a patient guy, but I watched him spend just about 4 or 5 minutes trying to look up a very odd yam-looking vegetable in a big book that they had. And every now and then you get sweethearting from the people. They'll try and either skip scan or pass things through without scanning them for whatever reason. So where is that shrink, especially in self-checkout? Well, a lot of times people like me that just punches everything in as bananas because it's quicker. No, I don't actually do that, but there are a lot of people that will do whatever they have to do to get through there quickly. And if that means picking the wrong fruit or vegetable, they'll do that. Some people will either intentionally or unintentionally pass something over the scanner and have it not scan. And then there's some people that will leave stuff in their basket, or they'll hold a pack of Wrigley's gum in front of that bottle of wine, try and make it look like they're following the rules. And then some people are just walking away without paying at the end. So a typical self-checkout is going to lose anywhere between 4 and 6%. And you can see off on the right various different methods of reducing that loss and how low we can get down to, or should be able to expect to. So what's Datalogic's part in this? Datalogic builds hardware. We are a platform that allows these AI-enabled, or sometimes it's not even AI, sometimes it's just features to help you reduce that shrink. So I'm sure you're all familiar with what scanners look like. On the left side, you can see there's one with a tall bonnet, one with a short bonnet. But what we're incorporating into here now are things to make AI work a little bit better. We're having vertical and horizontal color cameras built into these devices to get much better pictures of what is on the platter looks like, to allow that AI to be able to read and see what it's seeing better. We're also incorporating top-down readers to be able to get a view from above the platter. We're putting an Ethernet switch into this device, and people are like, well, why do you need an Ethernet switch inside of a scanner scale? As we start to add more cameras in different areas, possibly way above, to be able to see what's happening with the cart also, or maybe below the cart to be able to see if there's something underneath. More and more cameras for AI mean we're going to need to pull those together. So we're going to act as a hub to be able to plug all those IP cameras into one place and not have to add a lot of extra equipment underneath the counter. And then the last thing that we're going to be incorporating, and this one's not coming out till a little later this year, is a tensor processor unit, meaning that you're actually going to have computing power that you can use to filter through or to use for AI comparisons or AI logic on what it's seeing on the platter. And that's going to be built in right into the unit also. So we may be able to avoid the bolt-on of other processing units or smart cameras. We'll be able to incorporate that all right into the scanner scale. So what do some of those features look like, the things that we can do? Well, built right into our scanner without having to have any AI or have any sort of other processing is Scan Sentry. So if someone passes something over the platter area in through the scan area, but it does not pick up a barcode, we can send a signal back to the POS or an alert or both to say, hey, something just passed through the area here. We saw something go by, maybe not even up here, but back here, and we did not read something. So Scan Sentry helps you get those either accidental or intentional scan avoidances. The all weights platter. A lot of times if people are resting large vegetables onto various different surfaces, it won't scan. We actually incorporated the entire platter, including the house into the bonnet and the rail, into our scale. So as long as it's not hanging off the edge, and we'll talk about that in a second, however they get it on there, we're getting a full weight. And sometimes that leaning can reduce the weight by a substantial amount. And then to keep it from hanging off the side, we have something that's built into the scanner called Scan Sentry that sends a red infrared light across each side and acts like virtual rails. So if it's hanging off the edge, the scale won't get a reading, and you have to get it repositioned so that it's not. So I talked a little bit about the cameras. Older scanners, ones that a lot of you may still be using in the store, this is what they see. And they're usually, you'll get a couple of angles, two cameras inside the bioptic scanner. But it's not a super clear picture, but that's a very readable picture from for a barcode scanner. But as we start getting into different kinds of barcodes, Digimark, 2D barcodes, QR codes, it gets a little more difficult. And so if you take a look at what our new quad vision in these new scanners has, it's a much more high resolution 4-camera system to make it much more likely as you're passing something over that one of the angles is going to catch the barcode. We've even got the capability where if this camera catches half the barcode and this catches half the barcode, the computer will actually stitch that together and know what that product is. So again, 4 cameras with the software gets us to the point that with these simple 1D barcodes, we're getting things scanned the first time going by about 10% more than anything else out there. When you get into QR codes, 2D codes, or the new coming, the GS1 codes that are going to be coming on all the packaging, the improvement gets even better. So what do those color cameras I was talking about look like? Now we're talking about very high resolution color images to be able to take these and be able to compare them either to a database of known products, or some systems work a little bit differently and they actually learn from the ground up what a green pepper or what an orange looks like. Whichever way they're doing it, having these very clear cameras that are positioned in the exact same position, regardless of which scale you go to or which store you go to, allows that AI to learn more quickly and be able to work a little more efficiently. The top-down camera, taking a picture of a banana, just as an example. And then the horizontal view. So that color horizontal camera looking up from the bottom is important, not just to try and be able to grab barcodes from there, but also when we lay down a bag full of produce or a bag full of fruit, vegetables, any other product that might not have a clear image from the top, it usually gets pressed down. And so we get a pretty good view from the bottom of what's in that bag. So who's out there doing artificial intelligence? I know you saw a great presentation from Toshiba earlier in the week, and they had their AI produce recognition system. I know that all the manufacturers are looking into it. There's several companies that are on the screen here that have their own software that will work with anyone's hardware. There's a lot of different people out there, and what you need to do is decide what problems you're trying to solve and then find the right software that's going to do that for you. Right now, we're agnostic. We don't have our own AI software. We are a hardware platform for any AI software that wants to use the device. So what kinds of use cases, or what are some people doing with the AI? One's that problem at the self-checkout that I was talking about. I don't want to have to scroll through 3 different menus to pick my bananas. When I set the bananas down on there, and as you saw with Toshiba's produce recognition, it can pull up a banana, a plantain, and a red banana, and you pick from a list of 3 as opposed to a list of 1,000,000. And then we can also use that same recognition technology to say, you know, you entered bananas here, but what I saw was a bottle of wine. That same can happen where if they hold a pack of gum in front of the barcode and try and scan it as a pack of gum, it can say, yeah, that doesn't look like what you scanned. So you can send messages back to them. You can send alerts to the management. You can have it beep and hold. You get to decide, or the software gets to decide what to do with that information when it doesn't have a correct match. So some examples, this one particular software, Edgify, that I'm using as an example, actually saves all these missed or improper scans into a database. So even if you're not using that feature, it can give you a list and a readout and say, okay, these were listed as tomatoes, these were listed as carrots. So you're able to see what kind of mistakes are being made on your attended lanes, or what kind of potential fraud is happening on the self-checkout lanes. And it can even go one step further and say, these were labeled as green peppers and it cost you $3.73. These were labeled as avocados, that's another $1.27. And you can actually add up and see what having product recognition or some sort of theft avoidance could potentially save you. So you start off small with the system, but you find other things that make sense and that you can use to reduce additional shrink. So the takeaway from the checkout side of things is When you're picking out new hardware, over the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to want to deploy some sort of AI, probably either in produce recognition, some sort of theft avoidance or shrink reduction fashion. Having the hardware that will be able to deploy that software on a platform will provide you some benefit. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're upgrading lanes. What am I going to want to do over the next 5 to 10 years with that hardware? Excuse me a minute. So moving on to mobility. We're talking again about Android devices here. You might be wanting to just increase efficiency of your staff, get management unchanged from the terminal they're at. We saw from Lock some great management software that can be done right on one of these PDAs. You're probably already using these handheld PDA or PDT type devices in some fashion in the store already, maybe for inventory, receiving, price checking. But there's a lot of new things that you can do with these mobile devices also, like queue busting to speed up checkout. We can interface it with other technologies. You had a presentation that talked about electronic shelf labels, a couple of them that talked about self-checkout. And I'm going to show you a little bit about a self-shopping solution we have where people can bring their own device or we can provide devices for them when they get to the store. And online order fulfillment since COVID has been a lot more prevalent. We're seeing grocery stores that are providing their own online ordering where you can just stop by, pick it up. That means your employees are filling bags for people, or it may be a situation where an Instacart or something like that is having you fulfill orders at the store also. So what do the mobile devices look like? We have 3 different kinds. Over on the right, we have what we call a PDT or portable data terminal. Those are usually larger, heavier type devices that are used in rugged environments. They might be out back, the back end for inventory, warehouse management. We do see them used up front in the front end for various different types of functions, especially when a hard keyboard is needed or more efficient. PDAs or phone type devices are what managers might carry around, and we saw that again, Lock has some software for these that makes it very efficient to be able to do all kinds of different functions without having to walk back to a hard terminal someplace. And these are a device we call personal self-shoppers. This is a PDA type device, but it's got an integrated handle on it. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, a little bit less attractive to try and walk out the door with. And this is what we use in places like Stop and Shop, where you can actually go in and you can scan your items, put them in your basket, and then just verify with someone and pay and leave. Some of these PDAs have the ability to go into docking stations. So if you are that manager and you do need to go back and do something at a terminal, but you want to just do it in your Android apps that are on the phone, we've got docking stations where you can set that down inside the docking station and that you get a full mouse, keyboard, and display, but you're still right where you left off and still using that same piece of equipment that you were using before. No having to sign back in or find where you were or anything like that. So queue busting, we've got long lines of people. You hear the overhead, everyone, all associates, please come to the front. We need to open up more lanes. What you can do is have a PDA type of a device, either the self-shopper or the phone the manager's carrying with a small Android application and a small Bluetooth printer. And what they can do is help reduce those wait times, get some of the frustration out for the customers, knowing that they're getting things sped up. You can't risk having those people say, I'm not coming back here because I just am not going to wait in these long lines anymore. To get an idea what that looks like, essentially the associate just walks up, scans everything that's in that person's basket. So again, this is good for the 20 and under type express lanes or 12 and under express lanes, but could be done theoretically with a full basket too. And when they're done, what gets printed off is one or more barcodes. You see this large 2D barcode at the top. It's probably going to look like that. This can hold 10, 15, 20 items inside this one barcode. So he hands the piece of paper to them. When they get up to the checkout, they hand them this. The cashier scans this barcode, and all this is the SKU and the quantity compiled into a barcode. So it's just like the cashier scanned all those items themselves, but it all just goes in and then they pay just like they normally would, same process. Some people take it a step further and have the ability for the person who's doing the self-checkout to be able to take payment right there on their device also and have the person head right out the door. So why would we want to do queue busting? Well, it's obviously good for the customers. They get fast checkout. They don't have to have loyalty cards. Works for anyone on any lane, anywhere, and doesn't have to be tied into the POS system for the retailers. The retailers don't have to have additional lanes or additional cost expense of putting in more self-checkouts or more checkout lanes. Don't have to staff up necessarily for those hours. And when you have peak times, I know some stores in the city, it's whenever the subway happens to stop or when school gets out. For some stores up here, it may be toward the end of the day, they get a rush of people after work. This helps you handle those peak times without having to have all of the infrastructure that's involved with thinking that that volume is going to be coming all day long. So self-shopping is something that is pretty popular over in Europe and other areas. They use it a lot. It's something that has not up until now taken off too much in the US for various different reasons. One, in Europe, they actually pick up their produce, weigh it, and print out a barcode and stick it on the bag when they pick up the produce at the point where it's stored, as opposed to having it weighed and charged for at the checkout. So makes it a lot easier for a self shopping solution to work there. And to some extent, it's also a trust issue, whether or not we can trust our customers to go through this and not take advantage of it. For retailers, the idea being that we can have most of the work done by the time they get to checkout, or potentially even not have to have a checkout procedure, is attractive on that end. Obviously, there's some concerns about shrink, and they're valid concerns. So what does this look like, and how do we handle those concerns about shrink? When we come into the entrance, the only way they get one of the devices is to be able to scan a loyalty card. So they know, and you know exactly who they are while they're shopping. Now, again, some places will do bring your own devices, but again, they need to be logged into some sort of system. So again, we know exactly who they are. Virtually no one, even in Europe, does this as an anonymous type of a process. They go, they shop, they scan their items, and then they go to checkout, and there's some sort of a verification. Either the people may weigh the cart. There's some products from a company called Bisbera that will take your list of items that are supposedly in the cart and do a quick weigh and see if it's in the right ballpark. Sometimes it will have people that will get pulled out for audits, kind of like the random security screenings at an airport. You'll occasionally get pulled aside to have your items checked. There's actually the ability to use AI in that function also, where if Mr. Smith has been pulled aside 4 times in the past 4 months, and every time everything was exactly as it should be, we can actually create trust levels for people and say, almost every time Mr. Smith has been exactly where he needs to be. So we can audit him less. Dave's brand new. It's his first time shopping. Dave is probably going to go ahead and get audited just to see where things are at. There's a lot of different things this does for the retailers besides just taking some of the load off the front end. Um, it allows more of those associates to be out in the store, walking around, helping people, giving them advice on where things are or how to use the self-shopping if they're having a hard time. It allows for upselling, either with those associates, or if someone scans an item, it can say, hey, you've scanned this item, but you can get 2 for, on this promotion. You can actually send tags out to people, promotional tags instead of coupons, so that they know that on their device, when they're doing their self-shopping, they can get a certain promotion in a certain area. So maybe you can drive someone to go into the bakery, a customer that's never been there before, and Locke talked a little bit about that with their software also. And some of their loyalty programs. We can do the same thing at the point of the person actually shopping. Checkout productivity, again, obviously 2 seconds per item instead of 4.5 seconds per item, because the people are actually scanning them and bagging them, and everything's happening right there at the cart. So when they're done and when they've paid, they just walk out of the store. You can integrate this with your loyalty system besides just using it as the reason for picking up the device and getting authorization to take one of the self-shopping devices. You can integrate, like I said, the personal offers, or for a trusted person, actually let them pay and leave without having to go through a checkout process. So how do we keep from having this be a free-for-all and people just walking out with stuff? Again, not only having the people identified, but having them know they've been identified. That goes a long ways right there. A lot of the self-checkouts sometimes will put a screen just of a picture of the person who's doing what they're doing, so they know they're being watched. Have an exit control strategy. Have some sort of gate or some sort of a path where people need to stop at some sort of validation before they leave. There's something called spy mode with the system, and I'm not sure that that's exactly the way we wanted to promote that, but we can have security cameras and have it tied in and be able to actually see what different people are doing. So if someone is doing video surveillance in the store, just like they're watching for someone stuffing stuff inside their coat, they can watch and see what that person is scanning and see if items that are being the items that are going into the cart are actually being scanned. And then again, we can give people trust rankings and decide whether or not they need to have an audit before they leave. And we can actually tie this in with the self-checkout system so that they can just go up and pay at the self-checkout and not have to tie up a lane. So that's another option for these PDA type devices. Looking at some of the ways people are doing assisted shopping, either by having me go online, order my groceries, and go in and pick them up contactless, or possibly having someone go and doing the shopping for me, like an Instacart, or several other different variations of it. He's shopping for multiple people, so obviously he's got to have some sort of a mobile device, and you can see he's got a portable data terminal that he's carrying around with him there, to scan the item, scan the bag it's going into, so that those groceries are ready when I go to pick them up. Um, that will work. We have some other options that might make things a little bit more efficient. We've got armbands that can actually strap our PDAs to the arm to make it a little bit easier, and a barcode scanner that's a Bluetooth barcode scanner that you can wear as a glove or you can hang around your neck and just make it so you don't even have to pick that device up. Maybe they might mount a tablet to their self-shopping cart that they're walking around with so that they can see the screen, but for scanning, they can just use this small device instead. More real estate on the screen, easier for them to be able to see what they're doing. I can take those same mobile devices, and this is from the lock presentation that was, I believe, yesterday. We can do all of those different features that were normally something you need to do sitting in a terminal now on a mobile basis. And these devices work really well to be able to do that. SES Magitag, if we're going to do electronic shelf labels, we can go in and take a look at our network for those, or go look at individual tags and set them. We can set pricing from these if we wanted to. A lot of different options once you have one of these devices deployed, other applications that can be added to it. So I'm going to stop now and see if there are any questions or if there's anything anyone wanted to talk about.
Hey, so we had a couple of questions. So the first one is, what tools are available to manage handheld devices remotely, for example, to change configurations, upgrade firmware, etc.?
Sure. So, and you can talk with your folks at STCR. There's several different mobile device managers and enterprise mobile device managers that are out there. We do have, that comes with all our mobile devices, a deployment tool, so you can do the initial deployment with them. But as far as remotely being able to update them, push firmware out, things like that, there's various different programs out there. SODI, 42 Gears. There's several others that are out there also. And those would work very much like the systems where Toshiba and Lock can push configurations out to the checkout terminals. It works almost the same way where you can push configurations and applications out to the mobile devices.
And we also currently use SureMDM here at STCR to do some of those
there you go.
remote software and stuff. The second question we have for you is for the queue busting. What model handheld is the best for handling this?
It's hard to say. If you're got a manager who's already carrying a device like a Memor 11, that will work just fine. If you are going to deploy an additional person who's not generally carrying a mobile device around with them, that personal self-shopping unit, or that's called the Joya Touch, would be an excellent unit because it's got a pistol grip, it fits in the hand well, works nice and smoothly while they're doing that type of an activity. Or if it's someone that is going to do absolutely nothing but that, then you might look at that CodaScan and attach it to their hand, and they can carry a tablet or a phone or any other sort of type of device to be able to get those scans and get that cart cleared.
Our third question is, what grocers in the US are using Datalogic self-shopping solutions?
There's very few. Some of them have used it. Some of them have pulled it back to only certain shoppers. But I know that actually the CEO of STCR goes to Stop and Shop and uses their system there. And so that's one of the larger ones. But you know, again, internationally, we've got several others, but that's the one that's on the top of my brain for use in the US.
And our next question is, with queue busting, can it also handle store loyalty cards?
So right now, the way the software is set up, because we're not tying into the POS system, they would present their loyalty card at the time of checkout along with that slip that got printed out. So any discounts from the loyalty card or something like that would have to be applied through the POS. Really, all we're doing with this particular queue busting solution is scanning everything in the card all at once, just like they had done it at the point of sale at the register. It's just giving them one barcode for everything in their cart.
And I think that might be our last question that we have.
I must have
Um,
spoken too quickly.
so thank you so much for coming in and going over all this. And thank you everyone for joining STCR's Retail Innovation Showcase. It's been an exciting week. I did want to mention that our Toshiba self-checkout webinar is coming up next Thursday, April 4th, as 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Toshiba will be going over self-checkout best practices, and we would love if you be able to join us. Again, thank you so much, and everyone have a great day.